So first step of this process is getting into the fuse box. Then we gotta remove this guy right here. Once you've taken your cover off, we gotta take these three out so we can get access behind the fuse box for where we're gonna tuck our controller. Now, we gotta pull one of these fuses. We'll tuck our controller back up in here, and we gotta get at this loom here. Looks like this, no. Yeah, we gotta open this guy up a few inches and access one of these. So we're gonna get at this second from the bottom or third from the top, whatever. Second fuse in right here. Now I don't have the fuse next to it in, so it'll be a little easier to get out. Find your harness with this stacked fuse. We're gonna plug it in just like next. I'm gonna snip a little access hole to run this wire out of. So just take your cutters on an angle, cut a little V in it. Let's see if that will work. Yep, that will work. It won't be pinched or anything by our cap. So as far as the fuse goes, we're done. Now, these wires connect with our CAN system we'll find here. And then next we gotta connect our ground. So our ground connection is back in here. So if you take this connector off, that is how we will get our ground for this controller. And we may wanna make sure we get that flipped and oriented correctly so that it sits flat. Run that all the way back down. Give her a few clicks to tighten her up. Make sure it's not gonna go anywhere. Perfect, all right. Now, find our little snips here. We're gonna take off small section of this guy. We gotta find a black and white wire. Should be right there in the middle. You see that? Black and white, yellow and white. We got that right here. Perfect. Okay, so there's two of these in here. We can choose either one. So we're gonna first unravel a little bit of that. The way these work is you have a little pinpoint right there. You have the black cap. Now you kind of set that on there and you'll spin this on as it punctures the wire. So green one goes with the black and white as you see in here, and then the yellow and white is with the white. So we got our CAN connection, we have our fuse for our power, and we have our wire to our ground right here. So now we just have to tuck everything. So I opted for the wave mount. We're just gonna slide that into there. Make sure it's kind of angled towards me. And now we gotta route the wire. So we'll route it down here, underneath, and then into our box, which we still have to plug in. So then we kind of tuck it back here behind our weather stripping. Trying to do this one-handed. You want to give yourself just a little bit of slack, but we can fish that down here so as not to tug these wires. So that's now ran down here. So we got this end of the connection, we got that connector, and then we'll go ahead and connect up our box. If you don't have PASM like me, what you're gonna wanna do, stick your Phillips head in here, give it just a little pop, and this comes out. Next, we take our button, gotta get your nut and crush washer off, and then we'll have to route this. We'll connect this to our control box that's gonna go down there, route this up over the pedal box, down underneath here. We'll tuck it up underneath this, go through to here, and you can get the little banana out by popping this out with a screwdriver right here, and then we'll route that under to here. So once the hole is drilled, you fish it through, and then you got to add your black connector, or adapter rather. So this will just screw on to the top here, and then you'll fish that back through until that kind of seats there. But we need to rerun this wire under here and catch it with our fingers underneath. Definitely don't want to tug anything or have anything get caught, because then you will pull the wires out of the button or out of the connector. So the first step to setting this up is there's 5 jumpers, and you have to change those or configure those based on what mode you want on your display. So this is already set up how I want it as supplied. So I'm going to go ahead and put the cover back on this, and we'll go ahead and tuck that up. So we got our orange wire ran up behind here. Definitely want to make sure that you're out of the way, especially for the guys running 3 pedals when you're doing your heel toe. And then I got that plugged into our box that I kind of tucked behind this wire, as that will kind of keep it back and out of the way, especially when I'm resting my foot here. So this I just fished back behind the loom, and then I also fished this behind the loom just to be a little bit more low profile. So I'll tuck all this stuff up. The last connector I have to connect is our power here to the box. I'll do that, and then I'll go ahead and put my my cover back on. So now we got everything tucked up here. We'll just go ahead and throw our lid back on, and then we'll go ahead and power it up. I missed startup because it's connected to Bluetooth, but you can see we have it here, and if this is rotated 90 degrees, you can use your button here during startup to change it. We can also use our button to change the modes. So here I am changing the modes as I'm clicking along, and that's how we got it. So once you've gotten your cage out, if you have one, then you just kind of curl it up and get this out. And you get yourself a T30, crack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loose, and this will come off. Forgot to mention that this step is for anyone with a .1 Cayman. You're gonna have to remove the engine cover, and then back over here, you can see here, I've just pulled the cap off of the post right down here, and that's the tip of your oil switch. So we're gonna go ahead and take this off. It's a 19, and I say a crow's foot's the best way to get this off, but you can see there's a lot of wires and whatnot in the way. So we'll come back when we get this sucker off. You'll also need to take this trim panel off. You just kind of pull up on either side and slip it out, because this is our ECU, and we'll need to pin our connector in there. But once you peel back your carpet here, you can press this button, give it a slight little wiggle, unplug this connector, press this button here and push that lever, and that'll free this up. Next, you have to unclip this by kind of pulling that out of the way and pushing on the black from the top. And then this bank of the ECU connector should just slide right out. Next, you'll take the provided wire, and you see how there's a bit of that, barb sticking up? So that barb will be facing outwards, and you'll place it in the 5th slot here, because you see how it's 31 through 40, and on the other side you have 21 through 30. So we start with 31, 32, we're pinned at 33, 34, and then 35. So this one just to the right of the other two is which one we'll put it in. You may need a small pick or a screwdriver to help it down. You see it's not quite all the way seated yet, so I'm going to stick a pick in here and just kind of make sure it's fully seated. You can see now that the pin is properly expanded into place. We're all good. So now we'll put our ECU connector back together, trace the wire across. We can feed it through our grommet. That might be the best way to go, and then try to trace some of the other wires back over to the sensor. We are snapping that back in place. We're gonna wait to plug this in until we get our sensor fully ready to go, and this will be the last thing we plug in, because I don't want to have power running to this as we're connecting our sensor up. So once you get the old sensor out, you can plop your new sensor in, and I was mistaken. The old sensor is a 24 mil. So you're going to need a deep well socket to get over this, and then once you get your new sensor in, that's going to require a 19 mil crow's foot. So you do have to have some funky stuff to get this done, but it's not all that hard. Once you break that loose, you can just hand screw this sensor out, hand tighten the next one in, and then just give it a little bit of a turn when you bottom it out. So once you tighten it down, you want to reinstall your connector, as you see there, and then we need to route this wire from over here at the ECU. So I've routed it along here, and there's not really a good way to go through our grommet with our main harness here. Now, I found this nifty idea here. We have this grommet going through for our Bilstein coilovers, and we have this grommet here that we're going to use. So we're going to route this behind this trim piece here, down underneath our oil and coolant fill. The only point of concern here is going to be this edge being this hard metal here. We don't want to have any pinch or abrasion points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this electrical wire, and I'm going to put some heat shrink on here, or some electrical tape, and maybe some a little bit on here so we don't cut that. So I got 1 zip tie, 2 zip ties, and a little bit of slack here for some relief, because we don't want to ever put tension on that connector. So then still got to do the shrink wrap and then feed through the grommet. We got to put a connector on it as well. So I shrink wrapped this section here, taped over this metal, and then I'm going to tape this down so that it doesn't move and doesn't cut. So we shrink wrapped it, got a connector on there, and now all it's left to do is plug it in. So we're all connected up with the new wire. Now time to test. All right, now time to test. Let's see. All right, let's toggle through. Oh boy.